Well, Coach, thank you for visiting with us. It's a rainy day outside, but it's a sunny day in here to be in here with you, and we appreciate that.
It's a privilege and honor that we are sitting here today. I had that same privilege to sit with your father. It was one of the highlights to be able to sit and share with him what we were attempting to do here at Provision. When I think about it, and I don't want to sound metaphysical, but Provision was birthed in me when I was 11. That's when I go back and I look all the way back, I was affected when I was 11. You know, I was born into this world with baby boy Joyce and Wallace Young. The second birth occurred when I realized who I was and what I was put here to do. It hit home to me on Soldier Field, the infamous Fog Bowl.
Really?
I participated in that game. And at the end of the game, normally it doesn't affect you because you have adrenaline flowing through. But that particular game, the elements affected me. I said, man, it's cold and wet out here. And I had a notion, and I didn't tell anyone, but I said, I don't think I'll be doing this anymore. I don't like doing this. I kept that thought to myself, and shortly after that, I received a call from Coach Buddy Ryan, and he used to call me Old Pro. He said, Old Pro, say the wise men upstairs are going with the youth movement. So, you know, it's been a blast, but, you know, I think our journey ends here. And I said, I appreciate that, Coach. I really honor you for calling me, letting me know, and made up my mind that was it. Well, some people who knew me, in my mind it was finished. But some friends of mine and former coaches said, it's not over.
It's not over yet.
And so I had a few tryouts, and I never forget the great late Bill Walsh. Went out for a tryout, and I knew I wasn't what I was in the past. And I was doing one-on-ones, and I remember Jerry Rice standing in the back. He wouldn't get in line. He wanted to see if I was still the same, and I was dragging my leg. And I never forget after that tryout, the great Bill Walsh said, Roynell, I really admired watching you, and you had. When he said had passed it exploded in my head. It's like, you had a great career. And that stuck with me. Came back to Houston, started a life, became an insurance broker. Had to continue to put food on the table, and I was making some progress in that business, and kind of lukewarm. Still wasn't fully committed, knew if I liked it, but I was doing that, and that was going to be the new way for me to be able to channel my energy. Along the way, met this gentleman who became the co-founder of Provision, Mike Anderson. He was a salesman, I was a salesman. We tried to sell each other, and we didn't.
Really?
But we decided, and we found out that we had a similar concern, and that concern was a concern for young men in this city, in particular, African-American young men. Some of the things we saw troubled us. We both originally came from those environments and wanted to see if we could be of service to connect with kids and see what was actually going on and how could we be of service. And so we drove in this community and communities like this all over Houston, and decided that, man, there's some troubling things that's happening in the city, and didn't feel like it was anyone on the guard post, and decided that, you know what, we're not going to complain, we're not going to point fingers, but we need to start something ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the genesis of Provision. It was called the Hanging Out Ministry. So imagine these two adult men would just drive up, see a group of kids on the corner hanging out, and we would get out and kind of hang out.
Really?
Unfortunately, it didn't go over well. Kids, the word spread quickly that we were some undercover agents. So every time that red truck pulled up, kids would disappear.
They just
And
move away.
they just move away.
Yeah.
You know, it's man, here they come, let's go. And then kids, so we never had the opportunity to engage them. So one day behind Welch Middle School on Gessner and West Belford, we would go over there every Saturday and brainstorm. Kind of just bounce the basketball and, you know, kick around ideas. One Saturday, I guess we stayed on the court too long because the kids had awakened and they started coming out, and these 3 kids came on the court. And this man, hey, get out this court. This is our court. What you doing on, you know, like, who you think you are? You on our court. Go ahead, old school. They were calling us old school. Get off the court. And it dawned on me. I said, this may be the opportunity we've been asking for. I said, guys, if you are that good, and I'm sure you are, you wouldn't mind indulging 2 old men. And it was 3 of them. And the co-founder of Provision, my buddy Mike Anderson, he was about 6'10". Out of shape, but 6'10". Of course, I was recently had left the NFL, so I was full of energy. And so I said, I tell you what, guys, you see the pizza place on the corner? 2 out of 3. If we win, give us 2 hours just to talk. All we want to do is talk. If we lose, we will buy all the soda and pizza that you can eat on this day.
All you can eat.
All you can eat on this day. Not any other day, on this day. We won those 2 games out of 3, and we told the guys, don't be sore losers. We'll still buy soda and pizza.
Nice.
And the 2-hour conversation turned into a 4-hour conversation, and of course, many kids had glazed over, but they were eating pizza, so they stayed. And we were finished. We got off our soapbox. Hey, that's it. We solved the world problem. Didn't have a plan, an idea, a clue. Didn't know anything. What we discovered, though, and looking back, relationship was established. And so one of the young men stood up. He said, hey, old school, will you guys be back next week?
Really?
We hadn't even thought that far. I said, yeah, count on it. We'll be out here at 8 o'clock. You guys be here. You guys gonna buy some more pizza? I said, yeah, we'll buy the pizza. So we showed up the next week, and it was 12 boys. Wow. Not 3, it was 12. After 6 months, at 12 grew to 300 plus boys.
Wow.
And so I went into the gym one day, and I said, hey guys, huddle up, some good news and bad news for you. For some of you who are convinced that there's some NBA scouts somewhere hiding in the rafters and you're gonna be the next Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan, I don't ever want to see you in this gym again. But for some of you who have been thinking about some of the things we've been talking about doing something meaningful with your life, making your life count, I know you're in the minority, but I want you to follow me across the street after the game, because I want to talk to you about how we can make that happen. And so I went home and I had the conversation with my wife. I said, you know, we stumbled on this thing with these young men. She said, I know, that's a little hobby you and you guys go out and do for the community. I said, no, this is what I want to do with my life. I said, will you support me? Do I have your permission? She said, yes, you have my permission. What does that mean, though? I said, well, I found a storefront across the street from this school that I think we get it going, maybe, can we pay the rent and the utilities for a year? I was fidgety. And she looked, she said, you know what? If that's what your creator is really leading you to, then I support it and let's do it. So I walked across the street to that storefront and I started negotiating with God. And I could feel my heart beating. And the closer I got to that door, I never looked back, but I was negotiating with God. So the closer I got, it started at 150.
Where did it go?
And I said, the closer I got, it went down to 100, then it was 75. And I said, hey, you know what, God, if it's 50 kids, then I know it's a confirmation from you. Put the key in the door, open the latch, turned around, and it was 70 plus boys. That was the start of Provision. And so immediately we said, hey, you know what? You guys, if you want to run with us, you want to be in our gang, this is what you have to do. You have to get your guardian to sign you up. They have to agree to come to our parenting classes. You have to come and commit every day after school, homework assistance, academic enrichment. The funny, odd thing about it is that the same teachers that taught those kids then would come over and volunteer. And they would say, this the troublemaker in my class. How is he pulling out chairs and opening doors? What gives here?
So it's more of an after school.
It's after school enrichment. And as distractions would have it, shortly after we got started, I got a call from Tampa Bay. Said, hey man, we had a young guy, he's not working out and we need you to get here. And I said, look man, I don't know. I didn't pass the physical in Minnesota. I didn't even get out of the doctor's office. I said, no, I don't know. I said, man, I want a guaranteed contract. I was doing all kind of stuff. The guy said, look, anything is negotiable. Just agree to catch a flight. I said, give me 24 hours. Think about it. I didn't sleep that night. I paced all night. And I woke up in a fog, but I woke up resolute that I was going to accept it because this was a platform. You hear about platforms. Everybody got a platform. I said, this would be my platform and I could network, and that wasn't the plan. I got on the phone with that GM and I was telling myself, I'm going to accept this. And he said, okay, did you? I said, yes, I came to. And then I began to talk and something took over. I was on the phone saying, I was hitting myself in the head and said, shut up, you're blowing it. And I told him, I said, thanks, but no thanks.
You heard yourself say that.
I heard myself,
Yeah.
I was hitting myself saying, you're blowing this. Why? And I couldn't control what was happening. And I said, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. This has brought me this far and I'm appreciative, but I have some other things that I want to pursue. And so I've been doing Provision, have never looked back, never missed, never wanted, never been a day where my family or me have suffered as a result. In fact, Provision has given me more in terms of my being and my purpose than I could ever give it. I'm proud that we have been able to evolve so that in 1995, that's when HISD came to Provision and said, hey, we have a group of young people who we have failed to educate. Would you guys be interested in helping us educate them? See, I don't know. I don't know. We have some strange ways about us, and I don't know if we fit into what you guys are doing. He said, let me worry about the politics of that. And so in 1995, Provision became the first public single gender entity in the state of Texas by having an all-boys school. So we had an all-boys school in 1995 of about 70 plus boys, grades 6th through 8th grade.
Okay.
And that was the first kind of entrance into that. In 97, we did a demonstration project in Pasadena, Texas, where we had a residential school. So we ran both a day school and a residential school. It was very profitable. We gave young men options who wanted to get out of the heat, and when I mean heat metaphorically, of the environment in which they were living in. And so we had about 65 to 70 young men that lived in the dormitory, and the remainder of our students were day students. They commuted back and forth every day. And so When Dr. Page left, of course, the support for that left, but we proved the point. The point is that environment matter. Environment matter, and so a lot of kids were able to clear their minds and were able to go forward and overcome some of their circumstances. And so right around '06, where we sitting right now, I hopped the fence. The board said, hey man, you know what, we got a quality organization, but we're moving around like a band of gypsies. That's how I kept Provision open. Every 4 or 5 years, someone donated property, and so I was like, "Hey, yeah, they get it ready.
That's a spot for us.
Get it ready to kick us out over here." So yeah, we'll go over there. The problem with that is that all the goodwill and the human capital we were building in the community, once we moved, all of that was vanished. But that's the hand we were dealt, and so. With the support of the board said, man, we have to put down roots. And so in '06, I hopped the fence where we are sitting right now, and there were cattle grazing. And I screamed to the top of my lungs, this is it. And the cattle would look up and go back down and start grazing. I went back and said, guys, I found it. It was 5 acres. 5 acres that we were trying to locate, we couldn't close the deal. I'm like, that's odd. Never known anyone that didn't want money in their pockets, but we couldn't figure out what was going on. So the real estate broker came to me one day and said, look, I have to go to Huntsville, man. The last sibling that is part of the family, you know, they live in Huntsville, and I have to go up there to get the power of attorney. Okay, all right, that's fine. I didn't investigate it. When he got back, he said, man, you wouldn't believe. I said, so we got it? He said, yeah, we got it. I said, that's odd, man. Everybody living here in Houston, why was he in Huntsville? He said, he was on death row. Oh my goodness. He was on death row. Now, the reason I tell you that story is more to show you the irony. The irony of it is that I don't know what that man did or what he was responsible for, but I would like to think that his signature unleashed and opened up the opportunities for all the people. Without the 5 acres, we would not be here. So whatever he did, I would like to think that he reconciled that by signing that paper. Without signing that paper, we would still be a great organization just kind of floating around Houston. And so with that one signature has unleashed opportunity, but all the great work we've done still isn't enough. And that's part of why this country is grappling with what it's grappling with. For a very long time, you know, from the founding of this country, race has been the issue. Some people say it's been the sin that we have never been able to grapple with. Many of us do not have the language, and even when we do, you know, it turns into emotional football. Sometimes we talk past each other as it relates to that. But if I was to be honest, and we live in a time where that's what's needed, honesty. You know, it's very alarming to me that we live in a reality where we have alternate facts. If I was to be honest, race and racial issues, race has always been the black man's burden and the white man's shame. You know, it's been something that has been a burden from my ancestors coming to these shores to all the things that in the face of the progress that has been made has always been resistance to that process and progress. And it's also been the shame of those whites who have to walk and say, well, I don't understand. My ancestors wasn't involved in it. So it's a very layered, it's very complicated, but it's something that it's the perfect storm. This moment that we have, I hope we don't fumble it away. I hope that that, because eventually the protest will subside, but I hope protest affects policy, because here's the thing. When people say it's a fine job you're doing, and it's very easy to look at the one who lives in darkness, but we never point a finger at the one who created the darkness. Think about that. And so that's what policy does. Policy gets at how can we make this structure equitable for everyone? And so I have equipped young men to take and young women to take responsibility for their lives, but it falls short if I live in a country that still forces me to live in such a way where I'm always stressed.
We need to be honest, and we need to have honest conversations.
Yes.
And you need allies.
Yes.
We want to be an ally here in Houston, and that's what we strive to be. What is your challenge to us in being honest and being an ally and helping make that change that we are having conversations about?
My word would be to those potential allies was, 1, intellectual curiosity, 2, equip and educate yourself. See, I know the timeline. I know the timeline of this country. I'm not living in a mythology. History allows for us to see clearly. It's not always flattering, but the historical timeline informs our moral compass. We need to have conversations around facts and history. And once we have those conversations, then the next step is, then what do we do about it?
We've talked about how it's interesting. Before, when these types of incidents happen, it was the next news cycle and you never heard it again.
Right.
But God stopped everything with COVID.
That's the beauty
and
of
said,
it.
you're going to pay attention.
You're going to pay attention. And you
going
know
to pay
what? My
attention.
will is going to be done.
That's right.
And so I think we have an opportunity to build something greater so that when this goes away, that we would have done something so noble that generations yet unborn will benefit from it.
Yes.
So that your kids and my grandkids and others will be able to sit in a space where they are able to sit at the seat of justice. I'm talking about equality, justice. And so it exists in our hearts, in our minds, but that goes to my next point. Then once we establish that, then we have to be able to expand our networks.
For those who don't know, can you tell us about this part of town and then why you're not just an all-boys school anymore?
This is the historical Sunnyside community. You have some very proud homeowners who live in this community. I don't believe you can build unity in a vacuum. Just like I don't believe you can want freedom for yourself and not want it for your neighbor. It was always the plan to include our young women, but when we became a state open enrollment charter, we had to duplicate whatever we were doing for young men, we had to do for young women. I knew our young women was beginning to have the same disparities as young men. And so I'm proud to say that our young women, though challenging, have been a tremendous blessing to everything we have done. They have been the leaders in the school. They've been the go-getters, and they take no prisoners. They are making the young men.
Right.
They are making the young men step up their game around here.
That's right.
And many of the scholarship winners that we've had in the past years, the overwhelming majority have been our young women. I would like to know, Ms. McNair, because I saw you out with our kids and they were loving you and you were actually at home loving them. What is it about what we're doing here at Provision that attracts you to this mission?
You're making things better for everybody. And that's what we all hope to do, is make things better. And my husband was so he just couldn't get over the vision that you have and were succeeding with, and he wanted to do whatever he could do to promote it, and hopefully it will be replicated for many. It's just you care about the kids and they care about each other and you, and we're all focused on making things better. And I just love that, and I'm so grateful.
Well, you know, you have a spot in our heart, and those young people, they look forward to every time you're here.
It's love. We just so grateful and love the vision. And want to see it succeed, and you're just doing so many great things. So what next? Are we expanding the school? Are you?
Well, what's next is the housing. We have come up with a 350 unit housing that we're hoping to. Imagine this facility with education, farming, housing, recreation. At that point, anyone who lives here have no excuse. If you're inside of this ecosystem, you will not have, if somebody says, where are you from? They'll say, I'm from the Provision Village. They will say, you have no excuse. You have no excuse. You have to be on point.
Well, thank you for your time today. I know I learned a lot listening to you and your story. And I just want to, again, encourage you and congratulate you on the job you're doing, impacting a lot of lives and making the world a better place. So really do appreciate you. And we want to be a part of it, and we have been, and we want to continue and get us all to the goal line. That's our provision.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been my honor and my pleasure, and it would do me nothing better to continue this partnership. When I met your father and your mother, now your family is a platinum family, platinum human beings that I'm glad to associate myself with.